Namaste, my Vedic tribe. Welcome. You have arrived, Bhavani Vedic Astrology. This video is about Mars transiting Gemini. And I made some really cool slides that I'd love to share with you. And here we go. So Mars is today moving into the sign of Gemini. It is at 0 degrees in the nakshatra of Mrigashira. And this video is for all 12 ascendants. Mars will be in Gemini from March 13th, 2023 through May 10th, 2023. And thank you for your support. Please like and subscribe to my videos. Make any comments and share with your friends. I'm currently doing live Jyotish readings via Zoom. So you can text me at this number, 308-6944. Let me know your birth details and times, and I'll get back to you and we can set up a Zoom reservation. You can also find me on Facebook and YouTube at Bhavani Vedic Astrology. You can email me at bhavanivediciastrology@gmail.com as well. So Mars is transiting the sign of Gemini, again, from March to May, March 12th to May 10th, starting in Mrigashira Nakshatra. I'm going to discuss a little bit about nakshatras with you today as well. There is no retrograde period for this transit. Phew. We have just left Mars in Taurus, and that Mars has been in Taurus for like the last 6 months and has been retrograde for a very long time. So if you feel the energy was kind of stagnant and kind of slow, well, things are going to rev up and start moving now. So Mars, Mangala, is called the auspicious one. We're going to discuss a little bit about Mars. It rules over like military. It's an action energy planet. So it also rules like your anger and aggression, your desire to protect and defend brothers and brothers and in-laws in general. So Gemini, which is ruled by the planet Mercury, in Vedic astrology, we call that Mithun Rashi, the Gemini. And it rules over communication, intelligence, siblings, neighbors, short distance travels, airplanes and cars, studying, like the eternal student is the Gemini, social media and the internet. Also rules hands and shoulders. So these are some Gemini nakshatras we are currently experiencing, and Mars has just hit the 0 degree of Mrigashira. Mrigashira is what we call a bridge. It bridges Taurus into Gemini from 23.2 degrees to 6.4 degrees of Gemini. And Ardra nakshatra will be next, nakshatra, which is 6.4 to 20 degrees. And that's a complete Gemini nakshatra. Purnavasu is yet another bridge that bridges Gemini to Cancer from 20 degrees to 3.2 degrees. So Mrigashira nakshatra, we're going to discuss a little bit about Mrigashira. It's ruled by the planet Mars. So with Mars being in this group of stars that we call a nakshatra, we have a double Mars happening here with, this Gemini energy. And we have that happening until March 27th. So a nakshatra is a group of stars. And this one, Mrigashira, bridges Taurus to Gemini. The deity ruler is Soma, the moon god. And like, who doesn't like to bask in a full moon energy? Who doesn't take pictures of that beautiful full moon? And Soma is like an elixir that comes from the moon. So like, I want to mention to you a little bit too about this group of stars. In this group of stars, there is a star called Migra. Migra means deer head. And that's the symbol of this nakshatra. And like a deer, constantly searching and searching and searching. And people born into this nakshatra and during this Mars phase, people are going to be doing searching and researching and striving for more. On a negatively, it can impact us, that we can tend to be a little bit more selfish during this time. In Ardra nakshatra, which will happen from March 27th to April 22nd, 6.2 degrees to 20 degrees, completely in Gemini. The deity ruler is god Rudra, which is the fierce form of Shiva. And the symbol of Ardra is a teardrop. And it also is a god that rules over storms, thunderstorms, and all natural disasters. And people born under Ardra or during this transit can experience stormy weather in their life, destructive energies in their life. And they must learn that the things that are causing them pain and causing them the tears, they must remove themselves from those things. It's a challenging nakshatra. And also under this nakshatra, people must prioritize their tasks and conquer just one at a time, because you could be overwhelmed with a lot of different things that you need to do. Perhaps the ADD mind kind of kicks in, figuratively speaking. And Purnavasu is ruled by the planet Jupiter, 20 degrees Gemini to 3.2 degrees Cancer, from April 22nd to May 10th. Which will then, after May 10th, Mars will make its transit into Cancer under Purnavasu Nakshatra at 0 degrees Cancer. Let me know if you guys would like me to do a video on Mars and Cancer. Please put a comment below, hit the like button. That will also let me know. And so this is yet another bridge that we find that we're on, bridging ourselves from the Gemini to the Cancer zodiac. The deity here is Aditi, which is the goddess of earth. So Purnavasu symbol is that of an arrow. And after the storm and after a natural disaster and the dark clouds have lifted from the storm, we see the sun and the beautiful blue sky with big fluffy white clouds. And we see that it's going to be great again. And so in this nakshatra, we can plant as many seeds that will bear fruit to make your life abundant. So a negative aspect under this nakshatra is that we have a victim mentality. You know what? I planted all these seeds, nothing grows, I give up, I'm done. So, you know, we want to just definitely, you know, make our life abundant and keep continually planting seeds. So as Mars enters Gemini today, Mars and Mercury have an unfriendly and enemy type of relationship. So Mars doesn't really like to be in Mercury signs, Gemini and Virgo, for example. So with the combination of these energies, we have a tendency with this Gemini nature, Mercurial nature, to overthink in a negative manner, like thinking the worst. And remember, Mars rules military. He's like, you know, the general of, you know, the military. And he doesn't really want to communicate. He just wants to get his soldiers and get ready to fight. So with Mars being here, he is on the fight. So arguing with neighbors and siblings, definitely brothers. Mars also involves accidents. So Gemini short distance travels. Also, you know, under this Mrigashira, we're taking action with Mars because it's an action-oriented sign. So Gemini, the eternal student, is searching and researching new things. So we can find ourselves under this, you know, taking the bull by the horns in a sense, and, you know, learning something new, researching things. And also under this transit, you know, it's going to be pretty intense. So with full speed ahead, there is no retrograde. And, you know, we want to keep our temper. We want to hold our tongue, you know. So Mars and Gemini for the Gemini ascendant happens in the first house. First house, as we know, is our physical body. Those of us that have Gemini ascendants or Gemini moon will find themselves perhaps doing some short distance travels. You know, accidents could happen to yourself, like you're in the kitchen chopping vegetables, you cut your finger. Perhaps you're having a little road rage and you get into a car accident. Again, having sharp speech, short temper, hold your tongue. Also, we could find ourselves taking action on a new education course, yoga class, Ayurveda course. This is looking at our 6th house, which is natural Mars home, and also our 11th house of social media and large groups and networking. We could have studied and releasing some research project on a social media platform to connect with our, you know, tribe. And Mars in Gemini for the Cancer ascendant is, happening in the 12th house. So 12th house, as we know, is long distance travels, visiting temples, ashrams, research on spirituality. 12th house is, definitely about spirituality. So we could be taking action and doing some research on, a different type of spirituality. 12th house is financial losses too. So with Mars here, it doesn't necessarily have to be financial losses. It could just be loss of control of our speech. So we could be our own worst enemy in this situation. Also, you might have a tendency to want to seclude yourself and spend time alone. It's also aspecting 10th house. For Cancer, Mars is a natural there and also in the 5th house. So having arguments with bosses, CEOs, and or children. Mars in Gemini for the Leo ascendant, happening in the 11th house. So taking action, communicating on a social media platform, maybe having a little bit of a sharp tongue when you're talking to large groups of people or your network circles. So take care. Arguing, accidents at home with siblings or with friends could also be a possibility. You could take initiative and do some research on a new religion, aspecting your 9th house, finding a spiritual guru. Also could be taking action to, finding your guru this time. Mars in Gemini for the Virgo ascendant, happening in the 10th house. Arguing with bosses, CEOs. The 10th house represents, our work, our name and fame. Again, being our own worst enemy. Siblings, neighbors, again, 3rd house. Gemini rules siblings and neighbors. Could be researching and taking classes on a new job position. Studying astrology, occult wisdom, looking at the 8th house. Short distance travels. Again, so please drive safely and don't have any road rage. Keep your temper. Mars in Gemini for the Libra ascendant, transiting in the 9th house. So Mars is dancing around the 9th house for Libra ascendant. So taking action, finding and researching new religion, finding a guru. Could also be arguing with your spiritual teacher guru. So take care of your oral hygiene, looks at your 2nd house, and things that you put in your mouth. So check expiration dates on food. Make sure you're not eating a lot of junk food. Go to the dentist, you might have a cavity. Arguing with your spouse or business partners, it's also looking at the 7th house there. So, keep your temper. Mars in Gemini for the Scorpio ascendant in the 8th house. 8th house is that of astrology and occult wisdom, mysticism. It's death and transformational energies. So you might be initiating and taking action and getting that health insurance or that life insurance plan that you have been doing some research on. You could have experienced a death in the family, perhaps an in-law, and receive an inheritance. And the 8th house also has to do with inheritances. And it's looking at the 4th house. So we could have some mental stresses, depression, addictions, also has to do with the 8th house. So take care of that. Mars in Gemini for Sagittarius ascendant. In the 7th house, has to do with spouses and business partners. We could have a short temper and a short fuse and pop off with our spouse or business partners. Taking action and doing some research with business partners. It's also aspecting a little bit of the 5th house. So maybe a creative project with business partners. Also, because of Gemini and Mars together, arguing with children, romantic partners. Oh yes, releasing a creative research project on social media platforms. Short distance travel, perhaps spiritual travels. Take care while you're traveling during this time. Mars and Gemini for the Capricorn ascendant in the 6th house. 6th house is that of your daily routines, diet, exercise, places that you go every day, perhaps your job. So you could also, it's your enemies, co-workers, competitors. So you could be arguing or going to court to defend yourself against enemies and co-workers, and perhaps fighting at home or having accidents around the house too during this time. However, Mars in the 6th house is auspicious, so you will conquer your enemies. So if you are going through some battles right now, you will overcome. So it happens to be slightly positive for the Capricorn ascendant or Capricorn moon. Sixth house is daily physical activity, like, going to do yoga. Maybe you decide now is the time for you to start going to yoga or Tai Chi or taking an Ayurveda class, also working on your health. It's also the early stages of disease could present themselves. So maybe you had a mole removed at the doctor recently and found out that, it was a blessing that you did get it removed because it was a little bit of a cancer. So let's take care, of any kind of early stages of disease that could present themselves. Releasing a research project on social media platform to large groups of people, aspecting a little bit of that 11th house. Social media, remember, is also Gemini. Arguing and having mental stresses at home in the 4th house, so take some ashwagandha, that's also will help some stresses. Mars and Gemini for the Aquarius ascendant or the Aquarius moon, happening in the 5th house. 5th house is that of creativity and children. So taking action on a creative media endeavor, perhaps arguing with children, neighbors, bosses, superiors, or romantic partners. Looking at the 10th house also in this area. Be careful when driving. And, you could decide that, you're doing some research and you want to advance your studies and you're going to go for that PhD in a sense. So you might be taking advanced courses for work. So Mars and Gemini for the Pisces ascendant, happening in the 4th house. So this is the house of your home, your mother. So also it's mental stresses, so arguments at home, mental stress, maybe arguing with your mother, looking at the 2nd house a little bit. So maybe family is in an upheaval right now. You could also experience accidents around your house, tripping over the dog bone, slamming against the concrete floor. That could happen. Again, launching a social media platform, YouTube business from home is seen. Having arguments over religion. It's kind of peaking a little bit at that 9th house there. And of course, back to the 2nd house, take care of your oral hygiene and things that we put in our mouth. Perhaps it's a great time now to decide to quit smoking. Go to the dentist. Perhaps we're experiencing an abscess right now and we need to get that taken care of. So Mars and Gemini for the Aries ascendant or the Aries moon is dancing around and transiting over the 3rd house. 3rd house is Gemini's house. So definitely seeing arguments with siblings or neighbors, harsh speech on social media. Be careful of commenting any kind of negative thing that might get you, into an argument with people. Joining a new social media group also, but be careful not to upset the apple cart. Doing research on astrology, occult, hidden knowledge, kind of peeking at the 8th house there. And short distance travels, driving, perhaps you're taking a little small flight. Be careful when flying, and driving, with accidents that could possibly happen. So, and try not to get road rage during this time. Mars and Gemini for the Taurus ascendant and the Taurus moon is happening in the 2nd house. And that is the house of family values and everything to do with your mouth. And so we could definitely, have a short temper and a spiteful mouth with our family members, business partners and spouses too. It kind of looks at the 7th house. Excess eating habits, perhaps. Mars is an action sign, so maybe we're shoveling in a lot of food at this time. And again, our oral hygiene, make sure that we're going to our routine dentist checkups and getting a cleaning done. Being impulsive, spending money, action. Mars shows action, and the 2nd house is that of our relationship with our savings account. So maybe we are now blowing through some money. Long distance travel is also seen here, perhaps to spiritual retreats. Ashrams also take care with long distance travels. And that would conclude the 12 ascendants. I appreciate you joining me. If you liked this video, please hit the like button, the thumbs up, share it with your friends, your family members. Maybe they could use a little bit of insight during the next couple of weeks as Mars is transiting Gemini. You can also contact me via my email, which is bhavanivediciastrology@gmail.com. You can visit my website, bhavanivediciastrology.com, and check out my menu there. And you can also text me at 702-308-6944 with your birth details, and we can do a reading via Zoom. I'll schedule the reservation for you. So thank you for spending a few minutes with me this afternoon on the 13th of March as Mars pushes forward, full throttle ahead in Gemini. And a little word to the wise is keep your temper.